Have you ever felt like people started treating you a little differently as you got older, but no one ever said why? I'm Dr. David Collins, and throughout my career, I've had the privilege of working closely with older adults who are full of wisdom, humor, and life experience. But I've also seen something else, something many people feel but don't always talk about. As we age, certain subtle habits can begin to shape how others see us, even when our spirit inside hasn't changed one bit. Let me be clear, this isn't about blaming ourselves or trying to please others. It's about reclaiming how we show up in the world. Because the truth is, a few small behaviors, often things we're not even aware of, can unintentionally make us seem less approachable, less confident, or even less respected. And the hardest part, most folks are simply too polite to tell us. They may step back, look away, or avoid conversation, but they won't say a word. That silence leaves us wondering, and sometimes doubting ourselves. The good news is, this isn't permanent, and it's certainly not personal. These habits are completely fixable, and it doesn't take major effort, just a bit of awareness and gentle course correction. What I'll be sharing with you today are 8 common behaviors I've observed in my years of practice, things that tend to sneak in as we grow older. They can impact how others engage with us, how we feel in social settings, and even how we view ourselves. Now you might be thinking, I feel fine. I'm still the same person I've always been, and you're right. But the way we carry ourselves, speak, dress, and interact can send signals that don't always match who we truly are inside. That's why it's worth taking a moment to reflect. Because when we become more aware of how we show up, we can choose to adjust in ways that help us feel more vibrant, respected, and fully alive. This isn't about becoming someone new, it's about coming back to the best version of yourself, the one who walks into a room with quiet confidence and real presence. And I'll be here with you every step of the way. So let's take a kind, honest look together. Because growing older doesn't mean fading into the background. It means refining our presence with grace, clarity, and purpose. Let's begin. Let's begin with something simple, but surprisingly powerful: your appearance. Now, I'm not talking about chasing trends or trying to look 20 years younger. What I mean is the quiet message we send out when we take care, or stop taking care, of how we present ourselves each day. People may not say anything out loud, but they notice. And those little details, they often speak louder than words. Let me tell you about someone I've known for years, Harry, age 81. Back in the day, Harry was the kind of man who always looked sharp. Pressed shirts, polished shoes, hair neatly combed. But over time, especially after retirement and the loss of his wife, he started to let things go. His hair grew long and unkempt, shirts wrinkled, and sometimes he'd wear the same sweater for days. No one judged him openly, but he began to notice that people didn't greet him as warmly. He felt invisible, even a little dismissed. One morning he stood in front of the mirror and saw someone he barely recognized, and that was the moment everything shifted. He got a fresh haircut, trimmed his beard, and pulled out a crisp button-up shirt he hadn't worn in years. The change was immediate. Neighbors smiled more. Strangers held the door. But most importantly, Harry felt different. Straighter posture, brighter eyes, more alive. It wasn't just the haircut. It was the energy he began radiating from within. You see, caring for your appearance isn't about vanity. It's about vitality. It tells the world, and yourself, that you still value the day ahead. A little grooming, a clean shirt, even trimming your nails. It all sends a signal: I'm here and I matter. And believe me, that message travels far. Think about it. When you see someone with well-kept hair, clean clothes, and a warm smile, how do you respond? There's a natural pull, a sense of respect and ease. We don't always realize it, but our appearance becomes a reflection of our inner state and a way to reconnect with confidence. So if you found yourself thinking, what's the point, or slipping into habits of neglect, consider this. Taking 10 minutes to freshen up in the morning might be one of the most impactful things you can do. Not for others, but for you, for your spirit, for the version of yourself that still deserves to be seen, heard, and honored. Because how you show up matters, not just to the world, but to your own sense of self. Let your reflection be a reminder of the strength, dignity, and life you still carry within you. Let's talk about something most of us fall into without even realizing: the habit of constant complaining. You might start with an innocent comment about the weather or the news, then suddenly, every conversation seems to spiral into what's wrong with the world, with younger people, with your health, or with how things used to be better. And while it's completely human to vent now and then, this pattern can slowly push others away, even when that's the last thing you want. Now, don't get me wrong. You've earned the right to share your opinions and frustrations. After all, you've seen a lot, and your experiences matter. But when complaints dominate your words, they can begin to color how others experience you, not as wise or thoughtful, but as negative or difficult. That's not fair to who you really are. I remember a man named Charles, 76 years old, who had a sharp mind and a big heart. But his family often hesitated to visit him. Why? Because he'd spend most of the time criticizing something: his neighbor's dog, the price of groceries, the way his grandchildren dressed. His daughter once told me, "We love him, but after a while we just feel drained." That broke his heart when he heard it, but it also woke him up. Charles made a simple shift. Instead of leading with criticism, he started asking questions. Instead of pointing out what bothered him, he began sharing memories, jokes, and things he was grateful for. The change in how others responded to him was incredible. He didn't become someone else. He simply began focusing more on connection than correction. So here's a question for you. What energy do you want to leave behind in a room? Do you want people to walk away feeling lighter or heavier? Being mindful of how often you complain doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. It means choosing when and how to express them in a way that builds, rather than breaks. You might even try a small experiment. For one day, catch yourself every time you're about to complain. Pause, take a breath, and choose something else to say. Maybe a kind observation, a curious question, or a positive memory. You might be surprised by how it shifts your entire mood and how others begin to gravitate toward you again. Because when your presence brings warmth instead of weariness, your relationships flourish. And in a world where so many are quick to criticize, your calm and hopeful voice becomes something rare and deeply valued. Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you looked someone in the eye while they were speaking to you, or while you were sharing something important? For many older adults, eye contact gradually fades without them even realizing it. Whether it's due to fatigue, discomfort, or years of feeling unseen, they begin to look away more often, especially during conversation. But here's the truth. When you avoid eye contact too often, it can send the wrong signal. You might just be thinking deeply or feeling tired, but others may interpret it as disinterest, aloofness, or even rudeness, and sadly, they may pull away. That's the opposite of what you want, especially if you value meaningful connection. Take Mr. Lewis, for example. He's 78, gentle and soft-spoken, but his granddaughter once told him, "Grandpa, sometimes I feel like you're not really here when I talk to you." He was surprised. He loved her dearly and always listened closely. But then he realized he'd stopped making eye contact. He'd often glance down or look away while she spoke. Once he became aware of it, he made a small effort to lift his gaze, even just for a few seconds at a time. The difference was immediate. His granddaughter lit up. She smiled more. She lingered longer in conversation. You see, eye contact doesn't need to be intense or unbroken. In fact, it shouldn't be. But it's one of the simplest ways to say, "I see you, I hear you, and you matter to me." Especially in a world filled with distractions, your quiet, steady gaze can become a powerful form of presence. Now, I know that for some people, especially those dealing with vision issues or past trauma, eye contact can feel uncomfortable. If that's the case, start gently. Try offering more open body language. Nod slightly. Let your facial expressions show you're engaged. Small gestures go a long way. The goal isn't to perform, it's to be present. When you give someone your eyes, even briefly, it grounds both of you in the moment. And people notice. They feel respected, acknowledged, and safe. In return, they often open up more, trust you more, and enjoy being around you. So if you found yourself looking away more often lately, don't judge yourself. But do take a moment to reconnect, lift your eyes, offer your attention. It costs nothing, and yet it can completely transform how others experience you and how you experience them. Let's be honest, Life gives us plenty to complain about. Aches and pains, bills that don't go away, politics, noise, weather, rude people, the list can go on. And for many older adults, expressing frustration can become a habit. It might start as venting, but over time, it turns into a pattern, talking more about what's wrong than what's right. The problem is, while it may feel honest or justified, constant complaining can slowly push people away. You may have noticed it yourself. You start a conversation with someone younger, hoping to connect. But when the tone turns negative, talking about what hurts, what used to be better, or how the world is going downhill, they begin to check out. Their body shifts. They glance at their phone. They wrap up early. It's not because they don't care. It's because too much negativity can feel heavy. And people, especially the younger generation, are already carrying a lot on their shoulders. Now, I'm not saying you have to pretend everything's perfect. Life isn't always easy, and sharing your truth matters. But there's a big difference between opening up and constantly airing grievances. When every conversation feels like a list of complaints, it drains the energy in the room. It makes others feel like they have to fix something, or that nothing they say will be enough. Take Mr. Jerome, for example. He's 82, smart as a whip, and full of stories. But he noticed his grandkids were calling less and staying shorter during visits. When his daughter gently told him, "Dad, they feel like you're always upset," it hit him hard. He reflected and realized most of what he said lately revolved around what hurt or what disappointed him. So he tried something new. He started each visit by asking his grandkids about them, what they were excited about, what music they were listening to, or who they were seeing. Slowly, the laughter returned. So did the warmth. You still have wisdom to share, stories to tell, and yes, some real struggles to be honest about. But when you mix those with curiosity, humor, and lightness, it draws people in. It helps them feel safe, heard, and uplifted around you. If this idea resonates with you, take it as a gentle invitation. Try noticing your tone this week. See if you can bring more balance, more joy, more curiosity to your conversations. You might be surprised how quickly people start leaning in again. Have you ever been around someone who always seems to have the last word? No matter the topic, music, cooking, relationships, even the weather, they've got a story, a correction, or a better way to do things. Now imagine being on the receiving end of that. It might feel like you're not really being heard, or that your thoughts don't matter. And when that becomes a pattern, people, especially younger folks, start to pull away. This habit can sneak up on us, especially as we age. After all, you've lived through so much. You've worked hard, raised families, seen things change again and again. It's natural to feel like you know what works best. But here's the tricky part. Knowing a lot doesn't mean we need to say a lot. Sometimes, wisdom shows up not in offering advice, but in choosing to listen and to ask questions instead. Let me tell you about Mr. Lenny. He's 76, a retired mechanic, and sharp as ever. His granddaughter, Amanda, once brought her new boyfriend over for dinner. When the young man mentioned he was learning to cook, Lenny jumped in with a full tutorial on how to properly season chicken, down to the spice measurements. It wasn't mean-spirited, just automatic. But afterward, Amanda said, "Grandpa, he wasn't asking for advice, he just wanted to share." That moment stuck with him. He realized that what he thought was helpful was actually silencing someone else's excitement. There's a fine line between sharing experience and stealing the moment. And when you're always correcting, lecturing, or turning every story into your own, it can make others feel small, even if that's not your intention. The truth is, people don't connect with someone who's always right. They connect with someone who's real, humble, and willing to learn right alongside them. This doesn't mean you have to hold back your insights. Your knowledge is valuable, but offering it with curiosity or waiting to be asked makes a world of difference. Phrases like, "That's interesting," "Tell me more," or "I've never tried that, what was it like?" can open up richer, more respectful conversations. Being seen as wise doesn't come from proving you're right. It comes from showing you care about what others have to say. And when people feel heard, they're more likely to listen to you in return. That's how trust and connection grow, through humility, not just knowledge. Let's be honest. Life gives us plenty to complain about. The aches in our joints, the noise in the neighborhood, the price of groceries. or how things just aren't the way they used to be. And talking about these things isn't wrong. It's human. But when everyday conversations become a list of gripes, something shifts. People start to feel drained instead of connected. They may begin to avoid the phone call or step back during visits, not because they don't care, but because constant negativity makes it hard to enjoy the moment together. You might have seen this in someone close to you. Maybe you have a friend who always starts with, "You won't believe what happened now." Or perhaps you've caught yourself pointing out every flaw in the world around you without even realizing it. Over time, it becomes a habit, like a background noise we stop noticing. But others still hear it, loud and clear. Let me share about Mr. Walter, a kind-hearted 80-year-old who visited the same diner every week. At first, the staff adored him, but gradually, he began complaining about everything. The coffee wasn't hot enough, the chairs too stiff, the music too loud. One day, the waitress gently asked, "Mr. Walter, did anything go right today?" That question made him pause. He hadn't even noticed how often he was criticizing. It had become automatic. What Walter realized, and what many of us eventually see, is that repeated complaints don't just affect others, they affect us. They shape how we view our days, our relationships, even our own self-worth. When our focus stays on what's wrong, we miss what's still good. This isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's about choosing where we place our attention. One simple shift, like saying, "I'm grateful the sun's out today," instead of "it's too hot," can change the energy of an entire conversation. Try this. The next time something bothers you, pause and ask yourself, "Is this worth saying out loud, or can I let it go?" And when you do speak up, try pairing it with something positive. That line at the pharmacy was long, but the pharmacist was really helpful today. That balance shows emotional maturity and invites connection instead of disconnection. People enjoy being around those who uplift, not those who complain. Your presence can be a source of calm and comfort, but only if your words make room for joy too. And when you lead with appreciation rather than irritation, you remind others, and yourself, that there's still so much worth smiling about. Have you ever found yourself starting a story with, "Back in my day," and watching the younger person in front of you slowly tune out? It's something we all do from time to time. Reminisce, share lessons, reflect on how things used to be. But when it becomes a habit, when every conversation circles back to the past, it can unintentionally create distance between us and the people we care about. They might feel like we're not really listening, or that we're not interested in what's happening now. Let me be clear, there's nothing wrong with remembering the past. Our stories matter. They carry wisdom, humor, and history. But communication is a two-way street. And when we spend more time talking than listening, especially to younger people, we miss the chance to truly connect. They want to feel heard, just like we do. They want to know their experiences, struggles, and ideas are valued, not just compared to how things used to be. I remember chatting with a man named Walter. He's 78 and sharp as ever, but he told me something surprising. His grandson had stopped calling as often. He said, "I don't listen," Walter admitted, "that I always turn the conversation back to myself." It wasn't easy for him to hear, but he took it to heart. He made a conscious effort to ask questions, to pause before offering advice, to simply listen. And slowly, that bond with his grandson started to rebuild. There's power in being present and asking someone, "What's going on in your life these days?" and then really paying attention to their answer. It shows respect, it shows love, and it tells them that their voice matters too. If you find yourself often slipping into stories of the past, try balancing it with curiosity. What are your children or grandchildren excited about? What challenges are they facing? How are they navigating a world that's very different from the one we knew? When you show genuine interest in the present, you become someone others want to be around, not just out of duty, but because they feel seen and heard. And here's something beautiful. You don't have to give up your stories to do this. Just offer them in moments where they truly serve, where they relate, encourage, or gently guide. When your wisdom is wrapped in empathy and presence, it becomes a gift, not a lecture. So, the next time you're about to share a memory, pause for a moment. Ask a question first. Invite the other person into the conversation. You may be surprised at how much closer it brings you, and how much more your words are valued when they come from a place of connection, not comparison. One of the quiet ways we begin to fade from the world around us is by refusing to try anything new. It's understandable. As we age, comfort becomes more appealing. We know what we like, we have our routines, and the thought of learning something unfamiliar can feel tiring or even intimidating. But when we say no too often, not just to big things, but to small changes, we unknowingly send a message that we've stopped growing, that we're no longer curious or even interested. Think about it. When was the last time you tried a new type of food, listened to unfamiliar music, visited a place you hadn't seen, or simply said yes to something spontaneous? These aren't just activities. They're signals that we're still alive inside, that we're open, engaged, and willing to participate in life. And the truth is, others notice. When someone always turns down invitations, always orders the same thing, always talks about the same topics, it can make them seem stuck, even if they're deeply kind or wise. Let me share a story. Mr. Allen, 76, was once known in his circle of friends as the stubborn one. He had his way of doing things and didn't stray from it. But after his daughter gently encouraged him to take a watercolor class at the local community center, something shifted. "I thought I'd be terrible at it," he laughed. "But it turns out I really enjoy it. And the people there, most of them younger, treat me like one of them." That one class led to new conversations, new friendships, and even a small art show where his work was proudly displayed. All because he said yes. Now, trying something new doesn't mean you have to go skydiving or change your entire life. It can be as simple as reading a different kind of book, joining a walking group, or learning how to use an app to talk to your grandchildren. These little shifts keep our minds flexible and our spirits youthful. And perhaps most importantly, they make us more approachable. People of all ages are drawn to those who remain curious, open-hearted, and willing to learn. So if you found yourself turning down opportunities, telling yourself, "That's not for me," maybe just pause next time. Ask yourself, is this really about preference, or is it about fear? Because sometimes, the smallest leap out of routine can open a whole new chapter of joy. And when people see you embracing life with that kind of spirit, they won't just respect you, they'll be inspired by you. As we come to the close of this reflection, I want to leave you with something simple but powerful. The way people treat us as we grow older isn't always about age. Often, it's about the energy we bring, the signals we send through our words, actions, and presence. And the good news is, you have more influence over that than you may realize. Each of the 8 habits we explore today may seem small on their own. Maybe it's how we carry ourselves, how we listen, how we stay curious, or how we dress. But together, they create a message. They tell others, "I'm still here, I still care, I still have something to give." And that message has weight. It can shape the way people respond to you, whether they lean in with interest or quietly pull away. I've seen it time and again. A man who thought he was being ignored, only to realize he'd stopped making eye contact. A woman who felt invisible at family dinners, until she started asking questions and really listening. A retired teacher who felt stuck, then found a new purpose mentoring kids at the library once a week. These weren't grand changes, they were small acts of intention, but they made all the difference. You don't have to change who you are, you simply have to come back to yourself, to the parts of you that are thoughtful, warm, alive, and open. When you show up with presence and care, people feel it. They respond to it. And most importantly, you feel it too. You start to walk a little taller, smile a little easier, and see yourself, not as someone being left behind, but as someone still on the path, still writing your story. So if any part of today's message resonated with you, I invite you to choose just one small habit to shift. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Maybe it's putting on that shirt you love. Maybe it's calling an old friend. Or maybe it's simply deciding to walk with your head a little higher the next time you enter a room. These moments matter. They remind you and everyone around you that you're still growing, still becoming. Thank you for spending this time with me. It's been an honor to walk beside you in this conversation, and wherever life takes you next, I hope you carry this truth in your heart. You are not defined by your age. You are defined by your spirit. And that spirit is something the world still needs, perhaps now more than ever. And before we part ways, I'd truly love to hear from you. Has any of these habits shown up in your own life? Or perhaps you've made a small change that led to a big difference? Feel free to share in the comments below. Your story might be just what someone else needs to read today. And if this message felt meaningful to you, consider subscribing. It's a small gesture, but it helps us keep growing together.